actually interned with Sylvan as a college student. I was home for a summer and helped out with summer camps, academic camps, and STEM camps at the time. And then after graduating, I just really fell in love with how much of an impact we could make on students. And it was so different than the traditional classroom. I graduated with an education degree, but really felt I could make a deeper impact with the Sylvan model than I could in a traditional classroom. So I came back, started as a teacher, worked through the various roles as a director, and then eventually bought my single center. So I am the in the office, running the show, but also doing all the behind the scenes business piece. So I have a very different view versus multi-center owners.
So I would love for you to give an insight into how you went through the process of due diligence, because becoming a first-time business owner is a fairly big deal. So what was your process like? What were any of the things that tripped you up that you had to overcome and get comfortable with as you were going through your diligence of becoming a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there was a big learning curve. I didn't have a business background. I was a teacher, and I think I worked really closely with the prior owner to learn a lot of the ins and outs of what was going on the business side of things. Corporate was extremely helpful in walking us through the steps and the process of the plans that we needed to have in place before even applying to take over ownership. But some of the pitfalls are truthfully just not knowing a lot of the finances, not knowing a lot of the books. And so the more that my current owner or prior owner, the one I bought from, could have shared with me at the time, the better equipped I was to take over. I would suggest to anyone to spend a lot of time in another Sylvan, whether it's the one they'd be buying or whether they'd be buying a new territory. But just the more experience you can see of how the day-to-day is run and then what the behind-the-scenes books look like, I think the better equipped you'd be to take over. And then echoing kind of what Jessica was chatting about, Sylvan is not an island. There's a huge family of fellow franchisees who have bought their center a year ago or 20 years ago, and they're all there to give you their advice. So I really leaned on a lot of other franchisees who'd done it before me to try to help map out the business plan, the projected budget, those kinds of things.
So now that you're in this, I would love to know what is the dream? Where do you take the business from here? And as you reflect back through your career and your life up to this point, has it completely evolved now that you're a business owner, and what you want to do next?
Yeah, I mean, owning versus just being the director of the Sylvan has really changed my family's life. It's a totally different playing field that's really challenging and really rewarding for me. My dream is not to grow to multi-centers. I am very happy with the one center, but we have grown revenue double since I took over. And so my dream is to continue to grow it that way. And I would love to start working more on the business, less in the business. So hiring more staff who can really run it successfully so that I can be more on the outside and have a little more flexibility for myself. And I think now that I have a good understanding of how this business is run and what we can do to really move that needle, I think there's a lot of opportunity for me to kind of design my own path with what my role looks like at Sylvan.
So I want to go back into one thing that you just talked about is you've doubled your sales on a single unit. Is that through the relationships that you've built with the families that you're taking care of? Is it based on marketing? Is it based on staff? Like, how have you been able to grow within the one unit that you have? Because some operators will take the approach of the multi-unit route. You're really hyper-focused on how do we continue to fill our four walls here? What has been your secret to success?
I don't think it's any one thing, but I think it's a combination of all the things. We've really focused heavily on keeping families happy, making sure families are, students are successful and that families are aware of that. So for us, it's been a lot more regular and consistent communication with families. And of course, we're doing a lot of marketing and getting out in the community and being well known. We have a lot of competition in our area, so we still keep up with a lot of those activities. But I think really just doing what Sylvan is designed to do, but doing it at a really high level or doing it really well within our center has helped us grow in volume. And I think it will continue to as we expand. And I think we have to add more staff to help handle the volume, because even through the pandemic, our volume has just been booming. And in order to keep that going, we have to have the Rockstar staff in center for that too. So I think grow, which wasn't necessarily the model when I first took over.
All right, and lastly, as a close, is there anything from a process standpoint that, from an expectation standpoint, was amiss, and how did you overcome that as you become an operator? And really from an advice standpoint, because you said obviously go work in a Sylvan if you haven't, or see a Sylvan if you haven't. But was there anything from an expectation standpoint that was a blind spot for you as a business owner that could help someone else that's going through that process?
Frankly, I thought I would work less, not more, but the opposite was true. But I think that's because I'm committed and I care and I want our families to be happy and grow that. So I think I expected that I would just hire other people to do all the things for me. But ultimately, when you're the owner, nobody quite cares about it the way you do. And so I think that's kind of the natural progression. And I think I've found that is very similar for all my fellow franchisees that I talk to. We live, breathe, eat, sleep, love Sylvan. So I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. But the expectation of, oh, I'm going to own the business, maybe I'll work less, did not come to fruition.
So I lied. I said that was the last question. Now I have one more follow-up question. So I in the same seat as you as a business owner. I'm the business owner of our company, and I will say at some point I probably had the same expectations. My business is not a franchise, but maybe not. I didn't have the expectation of how much time I would work, but I didn't have an expectation of necessarily how much I would commit to it. But at some point, it didn't feel like work anymore. It felt like I was like, it was almost like my hobby. Did that happen for you as you're going through kind of, determining how do you overcome the expectation of working less?
Yeah, I mean, truly, I do think part of my identity is wrapped up in what I do, right? And so I do feel like being the owner or the director of Sylvan or the teacher at Sylvan, it would be hard to separate from a lot of that. So I think while there might be a lot of hours, the role that I take on might shift, but it's still going to be all things Sylvan. It's just going to look different. And again, I think that's one of the beautiful things about owning a Sylvan franchise is that we can take a lot of different types of people with a lot of different types of backgrounds, and you can kind of make it what you want based on your strengths. And then you fill in the gaps with other folks to help. So I got off track, Nick, but I think, did I think I was going to work this many hours? No, but do I want to be working less hours? Not necessarily, just different kinds of hours. Yeah, you have to really have a passion for the work that we do. And you'll find that the people in it have that passion. And so anyone who feels like that's a good idea or a good use of their time should definitely look into it. It's life-changing for both the staff and the students and families that we serve.